there is never a time that I would exceed that first boundary I have set for myself, right? I would never exceed that first boundary. That first sphere I define would contain all of the divisions of space from there on. That is profound, really. It really is. It's profound in terms of physics, but that gets more complicated. But as well, it's profound in terms of philosophy. And I think really part of the reason why ancient civilization had geometry in their Morses and in their traditions and so on is because they were trying to convey that very concept. That concept that infinities are part of the boundary of your existence. That is, viewed from this perspective, everything can be divided to infinity. Okay? And, well, if physics communities understood this, first of all, right away, they would alter their accelerators projects. Meaning, currently, you know, we thought, when we discovered the cells, we thought the cells were the smallest thing. And then we discovered the atom, and then we thought, oh my God, that's so small? You know, there's billions of atoms in every cell. That's got to be the smallest thing. And then they discovered the electron, and then they discovered the protons, and then the quarks. Every time they go, oh my God, that's got to be fundamental. That can't be anything smaller, right? And now we're trying to find the X boson. I mean, the accelerator has to get bigger every time, all right? And so now the accelerator, which is pretty well the biggest accelerator we ever be able to build, and that means that we've reached the end of our capacity to go smaller, okay, is the Hadron Collider that's being built in Switzerland. It's miles long. It costs $300 billion. 5 countries had to get together to pay for the bill. And now we're looking for the Hadron, which is like billions of times smaller than an atom. What are we doing? We're dividing the space. I mean, we're dividing space at that point, no doubt. And guess what? You can keep dividing, right? We did the same thing in the other direction. We thought our planet was the biggest thing in the universe, and then we thought we found the solar system. Oh my God! And then we found the galaxy, and then we thought we were the only galaxy, and then we found all these other galaxies, and we found superclusters of galaxies, and then and then universe, and now we think the universe is the biggest thing. Guess what? That universe could be embedded in a larger one, in a larger one, in a larger one, and so on. So instead of looking for a fundamental particle or looking for a fundamental universe, maybe we should start looking, and that's what I did at that time, for a fundamental pattern of creation, a fundamental pattern of division that define creation. So in my day-long seminar, I'll be able to show you scaling mapping that we did with observation and equations we wrote that shows that, dimensions are actually, concentric to each other, but as well that the division of space undergoes very specific relationships to each other that defines the geometry of space, that defines how space divides and what scale gets produced at which level. It's not a random thing. And so that is the key, because if we forget the fundamental particle, if we understand the fundamental division of creation, if we understand the fundamental geometry of creation, now we have the key to some of the most powerful information one can have in the universe. The foundation of creation. Okay? Interestingly, if you look at various traditions, Kabbalistic, Hindu tradition, all these traditions talk about geometry being fundamental to the structure of creation. And if we could decode it, we would have this power. What it means to you right now, though, is that instead of thinking of dimensions as planes overlaying each other and things like that, is that to think of yourself as an infinite potential in every single atom that you're made of, right? Like really to sink that into your being, to like really connect with that possibility that within you is the infinite potential of the curvature of space-time. I mean, it's all curved into singularity in each of your atoms. And that you absolutely are justified in a non-spiritual way, in a philosophical way, to call yourself an infinite potential, an infinite being. Just mechanically, just by the fact that you can be divided to infinity. And all of these things are happening in a really, really cool way because they all collaborating. All these little infinities, they all got together, billions of them, and they made you. And they all agreeing, we do that, you do that, And that's an amazing thing, Just to give you an idea of the potential information transfer that you represent. Your little thing, singularity, relative to the universe, you look very, very small, right? But in your DNA, if I took the DNA in your body, right, and I put it end to end, so I take there's about, I can't remember how much, I made the calculation, but it was a while ago, per cell, but there's about 100 trillion cells in the body. And I took the DNA and I stretched it out in each cell, and then I put it end to end, and calculate how long that is. You could wrap it around the world 5 million times. 5 million times you can take your DNA that's in you right now and wrap it around the world, okay? That's what's happening in you right now in order for you to be here, to digest your food, to look at me, to, function, so your brain works and all this. And so, and all this DNA, imagine this little piece of information on this side of DNA is going across to this other piece of information of DNA, right? Imagine that you had to transfer this information here to that information there, okay, 5 million times around the world after, so that your toe cells don't start making nose cells, and your nose cells don't start making toe cells, because the nose in your shoes wouldn't be very comfortable. That's happening right now so that your system is completely coherent. So, why am I telling you all this? Well, first of all, to realize the miracle of your existence is a good thing. To realize what your potential is a good thing too. But as well, to realize that there's an amazing coordination, there's an amazing pattern, there's a fundamental pattern of creation at play here that makes it possible for this to happen in your life. Meaning, it's not a random thing. It's not the universe going, this works, this doesn't work, this works, and trying to put it together. You can't do it that way. Even since the Big Bang, which is now estimated about 14 billion years ago, you don't have enough time to get even one human being, forget a human being, even like a grain of grass, right, is too complex. I mean, if you take a shovel of dirt, there's about the same amount of DNA as there is in you in the shovel of dirt because of all the microbial content. So imagine all the DNA there is on the planet. Imagine all the organization that goes on. It's an amazing thing. And it can't, as far as I'm concerned, and I think that there's lots of evidence for it, it can't be done in a random way. There's got to be a fundamental pattern. The problem is when you start talking to like that, is people say, oh my God, he must be a fundamental Christian or something. you know. Because people, if they think of organized systems, they right away jump to like, you know, the other alternative is that there's some God up there organizing creation. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's fundamental patterns of creation in the vacuum, that the vacuum is not nothing, but that the vacuum is actually highly organized, structured, and polarized. And that's how atoms and structures come together and organize, and the network of information is present in the vacuum that allows all that information to be there so that the universe knows what to do and what works, right? Because it's communicating. Everything is communicating with everything. Now, if that's true, then everything is curved to infinity. What I was saying earlier, I know I'm using physics terms, but